Have you guys ever seen the movie 300? If you haven't, then you probably haven't heard the words, "Come and take them." These are the words of Leonidas himself, the king of Sparta, that challenged the king of Persia, Xerxes. It was not a plea, not a prayer, but a challenge to King Xerxes. Before he became a living legend, Leonidas was just like any other boys who grew up in Sparta. They grew up in a brutal age of war. And during the time, Sparta had a tradition called agoge. It's a military training system that was made by Sparta to raise young boys not into men, but into weapons for Sparta. The military training itself, it was brutal, where pain was normal, weakness was death, and honor was everything. If you think about it, these guys did more training than I ever did when I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't do any of this brutal training. I was too busy playing Bidaman and, like playing Beyblade. But this guy grew up playing with swords, spears, trying to become a living legend, a weapon for Sparta. Leonidas wasn't even the first in line to become the king of Sparta. He was actually the third son of King Anaxandridas II. No one even expected Leonidas to rule, but fate obviously had other plans when his half-brothers died without an heir to the throne. He ascended to the throne not through politics or any type of ambition, but by being the last royal sword of Sparta. As king of Sparta, he wasn't even dressed in gold or even lounging in luxury. King Leonidas usually ate with his men and trained with them as well. And not only that, he also fought with them in every battle that they ever had throughout Greece. So we can already see that this guy is not really your typical king. He ruled with a code: to live with honor, die with pride, and never surrender. Then a cloud loomed over the world of Greece. In 480 BCE, Persia had returned, and with a large army to challenge all of Greece. Millions strong, King Xerxes, he came into Greece, demanding earth and water. And what is earth and water? It's basically asking for submission. He's asking all of Greece to surrender under him. Many Greece states at this time decided to bend their knee, but Sparta refused. Because during this time, an oracle at Delphi whispered doom to the ears of Leonidas. Either a king will die or Sparta will die. Hearing this, Leonidas did not flinch. So try putting yourself in a position like that. If it were me and I heard an oracle saying either a king will die or Sparta will die, I'm running away. I'm not staying there another minute. So with the prophecy being foretold, King Leonidas decided that it was time for Sparta to go to war. And with the famous 300 men, he marched to the narrow pass of Thermopyla, or better known as the Hot Gates. Considering this was the only path that King Xerxes can go through, this was a very strategic advantage for the king of Sparta. However, unlike the movie, Sparta didn't come alone. They came with a few thousand more of their allies that decided to join their fight against Persia. However, only Leonidas and his famous 300 men pledged to fight to the death. They decided to fight to the death even when Xerxes, the king of kings, even when he offered them power, he offered them riches and a new kingdom to rule, King Leonidas only offered him a spear to his face if he ever come close to Sparta. So during the Battle of 300, day after day, the Persian army clashed against the shield of bronze and muscle, the muscle and men of Sparta. And wave after wave, they held their ground. The king of Xerxes was stunned, seeing that his men kept falling to only a small line of soldiers. If I was King Xerxes, I probably would have given up. Or better yet, I probably would have think of, a better strategy. However, this didn't really last long. Betrayal has cracked under the feet of these Spartan men when a Greek man named Ephialtes revealed a secret path to the Persians that led to the rear flanks of Leonidas and his men. When the news reached Leonidas, he knew that he was completely surrounded. And with that being said, he decided to order his allies to go back to where they came from to protect their homes, while he and his 300 men stand their ground to buy them time. And finally, it came to the final day, the fourth day of the Battle of Thermopylae, or the Battle of 300. The morning was soaked in silence. The men of Sparta indulged themselves in an old Spartan tradition. They combed their hair, they shaved their beards. This was a common Spartan tradition before war. I mean, hey, this gives a whole new meaning about fighting with style, you know? If your body is gonna lay there on the ground, you might as well look good. However, this wasn't suicide. This was a symbol of defiance. And when the battle came, they fought ruthlessly against these Persian men. They fought until their swords shattered, their shields broken. And when their shields and swords did break and fall apart, they fought with their bare hands and teeth. I mean, if you played the game God of War, we can already see how Kratos himself fights with his fists. So imagine 300 Kratos, fighting these Persian men. It was insanity. But when Leonidas himself fell, he didn't fell to the ground as a man, but as a monument for all of Greece. His body was taken away and his head was chopped off from his body and displayed on a pike as a warning to all of Greece. However, even though his head was displayed on a pike, his story of him and his 300 men echoed throughout all of Greece. So, in a way, his spirit was never broken. Leonidas didn't win the battle. I mean, how could you when you only have 300 men fighting 1,000,000? It would be impossible to win. However, this lit a fire that burned inside of Xerxes' dreams. Inspired by Leonidas's sacrifice, all of Greece rose and decided to unite to fight back against the Persians. And thousands of years later, his words still echo throughout all of Greece. Come and take them. It was not only a line of war, it was a challenge for every single one of us. And I really do mean every single one of us. When the odds are overwhelming, where fear is louder than courage, will you stand your ground like Leonidas?